are we on census comparison?
As far as it's do you want to answer, Ethan? The self-response rate has stayed the same, and we're still trailing Sedgwick. However, the total response rate for the entire state of Kansas, including the enumerators going door to door, is 99.9% for the entire state of Kansas. I just can't get that number for the cities to see how much Halstead has, but.
Okay, go ahead, Pat. Good evening and welcome to tonight's council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And the first thing I'm going to ask for is agenda changes.
Mr. Mayor, Council, with your consensus, we would like to add a second executive session under section F of the agenda for attorney-client privilege.
Okay. Any other changes?
None from staff.
And I think we'll move those executive sessions to the end of the meeting tonight to help speed things up, perhaps. So next item is the consent agenda. I'll ask for a motion to approve that.
Mr. Mayor, after reviewing the consent agenda, I'd make a motion to approve it for October the 12th, 2020.
Second. And we will go to Jamie for review on that.
Motion by Councilmember Wallace to approve the consent agenda for October 12th, 2020, seconded by Councilmember Torres.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. We're going to move on to public forum next. Anybody here wishing to address the council? I know Mr. Matkey, you are here. Please step up to the podium, give your name and your address, and tell us why you'd like to visit with council.
My name is Brett Motke, and I live at 414 Sweezy here in Halstead, and mostly about dumpster cleaning. I'd seen a company that cleaned dumpsters, like your trash cans, and I know my trash cans are absolutely nasty, and not everybody has a power washer, and I can't imagine that everybody wants to or has a truck that they can lug their trash cans to the car wash. So I called this place, and they charge, I think it's like $40 to clean the 2 dumpsters, and that's I believe it's quarterly. I have no idea what they would charge. Like, I guess my suggestion was if the city would add it on to our bill. I have no idea what that would cost. I would pay an additional $5 to have my dumpsters cleaned. That's me. So I printed off this company. It's the only company I can technically find in our area that even does it. I've seen them in other states and other places, but this place is called Grossbusters, Kansas, and they do trash cans, residential and commercial. So I would imagine the businesses here in town probably benefit as well.
So are you proposing to start a business or?
No, I'm proposing that no, I was not proposing to start a business. I was proposing that the city more or less contract with them, and then, I don't know, quarterly or every 6 months, after your trash is picked up, the next day they come around and they clean your dumpster or clean both your trash cans, and it would be added on to the city bill. My proposal.
No, all right, thank you.
Yeah, you're good. Anything else?
You may leave your findings with Ethan, and we could possibly put this on our work session agenda for discussion about it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll let you know.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else wishing to address the council this evening? Seeing no movement from the gallery, we will close the public forum and move to unfinished business, which we have none of. So we'll move to new business, and the first item on the agenda is funding request from the Halstead Historical Society.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe we have some presenters this evening, so I would ask them to come forward to speak with the council.
The Historical Society has Tessa Wendling with the Halstead Historical Society. We have two lighting projects around the depot. The first is around Pine Park to light each of the flags. There are 7 flags that currently are not lit at night, which we would really like to have those lit, as well as the Iwo Jima sculpture, which is right there. Due to the importance of having the flag lit, we looked at both solar and electrical solutions, settled on an electrical solution so that we won't deal with weather or having it only light for a few hours, and just for that consistent, reliable, all season, all night long lighting for the flags. We have looked at it an electrical solution, which requires running wire or electricity from the depot all the way out to Pine Park area. In front of the depot is also the projector sculpture, which many of you might remember from the hospital. We're also looking to light that. We are going to go with a solar power fixture for that to avoid tearing up the driveway. And we think for that sculpture, a solar power light will be a good option. The project costs we've estimated to be around $3,000 for kind of all 3 areas. The electrical wiring or running the new electrical is a significant part of that cost. We did receive grants from the Community Foundation, totaling $900, so we have covered part of the cost, and would appreciate anything that the city is willing to contribute. No question.
Phil, I haven't spent an inordinate amount of time on the statue, and it looks very nice for this book. All of this is nice and there. I like the park where it's been moved. It represents the city.
I think it's important to keep our flags lit, especially if they're being flown at night. It's important to have that done, so I'm in favor of this. If there's no more discussion or questions on this, I would make a motion to approve the donation to Halstead Historical Society not to exceed $2,000 for Pine Park and a protector sculpture lighting project.
Got the motion in the second. We'll go to Jamie for the review on that.
Motion by Councilmember Torres to approve the donation to the Halstead Historical Society not to exceed $2,000 for the Pine Park and Protector Sculpture Lighting Project, seconded by Councilmember Clausen.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries unanimously, and we can't wait to see it.
Thank you very much.
Now we're going to move on to our next item, and that's consideration of annual utility waivers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council included in the packet, you had the information for the Halstead Senior Center, which has been our normal annual utility waiver that the city started many years ago. I will note that it does look like we waived quite a bit of fees this year compared. They usually run somewhere between the $1,500 mark. There was a leak that has since been remediated, so if we didn't factor in, that just shows what was billed, but if we would have done our leak allowance, that number would have come back significantly. So just wanted to point that out. Upon reviewing these waivers, we looked at some other civic organizations or groups that fit a very similar bill, being cognizant that COVID-19 has really put a strain on some of these nonprofits and their ability to raise funds. We thought that the Halstead Historical Society and the Neighbors Pantry, which serves as our local food bank in Halstead, would be 2 accounts that would also benefit from a waiver. And hopefully those funds will help those organizations be able to put more money into those public services that they do offer our community. If we added those 2 in addition to the senior center, it's estimated that that would be less than or a maximum of around $4,000 total in utility fees that the city would be waiving. And you can see from the agenda item report that would be 0.002% of our total metered revenue. So these waivers would not in any way, detrimentally affect those utility funds, but it might help these 2 organizations and the senior center, again, especially in this year with COVID-19 hitting their bottom lines as hard as it has in terms of fundraising and some of their typical revenue. but also they do play an important part in the community and provide some needed services to at-risk populations, or just in the general sense of community as far as preserving our history. So we would ask that the council consider granting those two waivers. Again, they would be set up just like the senior center, so it would be annually reviewed, and it's always up to the governing body whether to continue that.
I have one question on that. Brad, do we have to have 3 motions, or can it be all done, or be all be done in one motion?
I generally prefer to do them separately.
You always want more work.
Yes, that's why.
There's no questions. This is an ongoing thing that we've done for multiple years. I would make a motion to approve the continuation of the waiver for utilities for the Halstead Senior Center for 1 year.
Second.
Okay, we'll go to Jamie for that review.
Motion by Councilmember Farmer to approve the continuation of the waiver for utilities for the Halstead Senior Center for 1 year, seconded by Councilmember Wallace.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Now, I would make a motion to approve the waiver of utilities for the Halstead Historical Society for 1 year.
Second.
We'll go to Jamie for the review on that one.
Motion by Councilmember Farmer to approve the waiver of utilities for the Halstead Historical Society for 1 year, seconded by Councilmember Wallace.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Move to the next motion. Okay, number 3, we'll make a motion to approve the waiver of utilities for the neighbor's pantry for 1 year.
Second.
We will move to Jamie for that review.
Motion by Councilmember Farmer to approve the waiver of utilities for the Neighbors Pantry for 1 year, seconded by Councilmember Campbell.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That carries unanimously as well, and that ends that particular topic, and I'm glad we're able to do that for those businesses that serve the community in the manner they do. Next item on the agenda is consideration of a levee tree removal project. We'll go to Ethan for that overview.
Thank you, Mayor. Council in the packet is a contract with Becker Building that has some options regarding removal of trees that are infringing on the toe of the levee. Specifically, this is the area of the levee, the wet side of the levee, if you will, between 36th and 48th Street. As noted in the memo, these trees are actually left when the original construction of the levee happened. And the standards have since changed, from how far that toe has to be clear to where now the city is supposed to maintain a 20-foot clearance zone off the toe of the levee. There's quite a bit, obviously, of wooded growth, as they call it, in that area, and it would be a very time and labor intensive process for us to get that clear. This is something that's been noted on our levee inspections. So looking at the heavy equipment and trying to get it done in an expeditious manner, we decided that seeking a bid for that work was the way to go. We were specifically looking for options 1 and then 2B, which would be removal of trees north from the sewer plant, kind of using the sewer plant as a dividing line of about halfway between 36th and 48th. And then 2B would have them remove trees south of the sewer plant, which actually would include trees with branches hanging into the 20-foot area. This was slightly more expensive than the just removing the trees in the 20-foot, but we figure this helps. And again, thinking long-term with this solution, we'll keep those trees, again, from dropping volunteers or falling as they age, and whether the conditions of high water events would change things. Just figure that's a more long-term solution. The advantage we see to doing this is it gets all those trees removed in one fell swoop, and as we continue to maintain and mow, we did just recently purchase that 20-foot wide deck to mow, so we should be able to keep that toe area clear in perpetuity as long as we continue our mowing on a regular schedule as we have been.
On this bid proposal, you're talking about taking out a lot of trees for $14,000. Are all the trees going to be removed and then brought to the landfill?
I believe our plan is actually to have them piled in place with multiple piles, and then we will coordinate with either removing some, but we're hoping to utilize like fire department and do controlled burns.
Will they be piled up out of the floodway,
No,
outside
it's,
of the dike?
no, it's on the riverside.
So,
How quick would the burns happen?
Hopefully this winter, it would be nice to catch a snow or something and then, or just right after a rain, but they'll get burned off. This winter basically is the plan.
My concern is if we should happen to get into a flood and that becomes a drainage district problem we created.
Yeah, we don't want to do that, but
No, we
it's,
don't.
it is to try and get it all burned as quick as we can, but trying to move that much material across the levee would be pretty expensive also. But it'd be better if we just make it, they're gonna push it back into the area and then just make several piles and then we'll burn them in place.
There's probably other materials back there that can be pulled out and burned at the same time to clean that whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, just one
Now-
procedure to be.
These trees, how are these, how big are
I mean,
these?
yeah, some of them, I'm not sure I could put my hand around, because they were, like I say, they were there when they built the levee, they didn't take them out. I know some of them are pretty good size. Not all of them, obviously, but I think the north section has more of those big monster trees than the south section of it does.
Will we run into a problem at all if we fell the trees and are not able to burn them over the winter? Will that cause us a problem at all if we have to wait till spring or even summer of next year?
It shouldn't. I think if we do have a flood, they're going to be tucked into other trees, so they'd probably be kind of locked into place if the river did come up. And it may float some away, but it shouldn't float them all away.
I approach that with every effort to
Yeah.
have those burns, so we do avoid that.
Yeah.
Well, I do need to ask, is this, it sounds like a large, job, but, and I don't know, I can only imagine the scope of the project. Is this something that the city employees can't do?
We have been working on it. It's just, we make very small inroads. We started,
I'm looking at considering what our budget is this year and all, and
but I mean, the problem we're having is these big trees, we don't really have a good way to take them down. We can go dig them up with the backhoe, but you take a chance of them. That's why the Beckers and their big excavator can just go in there and knock them out without any hassles. We just don't have the equipment really to get that big a tree without trying to chainsaw them apart. So that just.
well, again, I'll ask, how much of some of this work and other work could we actually be doing and not contracting out? Could this bill be reduced if we were to do more of the work ourselves? That's a big ticket right there, I think.
Well, part of that ticket, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, is not because we haven't been doing something, it's kind of almost a rules change about what's required.
Sure, I get that, right.
And it's, if you've been around heavy equipment and an excavator can do in 5 minutes what a payloader and a backhoe could do in about 2 to 3 hours. And the $200 an hour rate that they charge is actually pretty reasonable. I'm for doing it, and the reason being, and I want this to go on record, it should be a one-time thing. And with the 20-foot board, it's up to the city to keep that 20-foot barrier mowed and clean of any new trees coming up.
Yeah, I'll go for that. I'll agree with that one time, yeah.
So I think we can do that. Everybody's in favor of that. I make a motion to approve the contract with Vector Building for options 1 and 2B regarding tree removal along the Halstead flood control levee between 36th and 48th for an amount not to exceed $14,200. and authorization for the city manager to sign necessary documentation.
Second.
And we will go to Jamie for that review.
Motion by Councilmember Farmer to approve contract with Becker Building for options 1 and 2B regarding tree removal along Halstead flood control levee between 36th and 48th for an amount not to exceed $14,200 and authorization for the city manager to sign necessary documents. Seconded by Councilmember Wallace.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries unanimously. That moves us to consideration of date and time for a fall city council work session.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, as discussed at last meeting, setting a work session to discuss those items that we need a little more time than just a normal business meeting to discuss. It was noted, especially with the code issue, that the council would like the city attorney present. So I laid out kind of 3 possible weeks there, and we'll turn it over to all of you to discuss what would be the best date and time for the majority of the body and the city attorney to have a work session.
For me, that first week in November would work out a lot better than the last week of October would be.
It's gotta be after elections because we can't miss anything on the news.
Can we do it November 3rd? Is that legal, Brad?
Yes. First week in November is fine with me.
I can't be here that last week of October, so yeah, first week in November. I'd say the 4th, 5th, or 6th.
I'm good.
What day works, 4th, 5th, or 6th? I don't think we want to do it on election day.
Prefer fourth.
4th? I can do the 4th.
That Wednesday?
Yeah.
For you?
Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, typically we've done work sessions on Wednesdays, so. Works for me.
They usually start at 6, but I'm sure they'll push it back for your illustrious presence.
No pressure. I am in Peabody at 6. I don't know how long that will run.
Last one there has to bring the meal. Do the
Steak
5th or
and
6th
lobster.
work better for you, Brad?
The Thursday work better?
Because you're definitely a major player in this.
So then let's do the,
Let's do the
Fifth
sixth.
would work better. That's or 6th.
What day, Brad?
5th was, the 6th is a Friday. I don't know if anybody wants to do
Just do
that.
the 5th.
Let's
Yeah,
do the
let's do
6th.
the
I'd rather the fifth than fourth, or than the sixth.
Yeah.
Okay, 5th,
Time?
6 o'clock, whatever you guys want to do there.
okay, what time can you have the steak and lobster here?
That's exactly what I told Ethan. So, he had a different view of what it would include. He thought, like,
okay, so we've got a consensus, we're gonna do this November 5th at 6 PM, right?
Do we need a motion?
Mhm.
mhm.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we schedule our fall city council work session, November 5th at 6 PM.
And we will go to Jamie for review on that.
Motion by Councilmember Campbell to set a city council work session on November 5th at 6 PM, seconded by Councilmember Klassen.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and we'll have our work session. Between now and the 5th, you probably would like to have any ideas for additional items to be in that work session.
Yes, that would be great. We have,
Right now, it's review of ordinances
yep, and we'll
and
look at that issue tonight.
trash can to look at.
I will say, please monitor your emails because we will start either this week or early next week. We'll send out those sections of code for you all as they currently exist, so that you can begin reviewing those and making notes, or if you need to come to City Hall and print them off and get printed copies because you want to write on them or something, just let us know. But we'll start sending those out to you all electronically.
Well, we're gonna skip over the executive session for now and move on to reports. And I'll start with governing body, and I'll start with you tonight, Ed. You have anything?
I have nothing. Sir?
George?
Went down this Saturday and spent some time with people downtown Main Street. Went down 3 different times, got a little bit of different people every time, and just enjoyed it. It's a good turnout.
Didn't see you, I seen Ed down there. Mike?
No.
Sam?
Oh, I have one thing. I've been doing a lot of walking.
Yes, you have.
What have I been doing a lot of walking? Pat, down in the park, Scout Park, there are 2 pine trees. One of them is completely dead. One of them is definitely heading that way. What are the plans to get those out of there before it spreads?
That is tree board. They are trying to put together tree board removal, yes.
Yeah, they're doing it as a tree board project. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the tree board can do both maintenance, removal, and planting.
Okay.
They can cover the whole gamut, so.
What's the schedule on that, any idea?
Talked to Grant today. He's working with, Flores, and I didn't hear a timetable yet, just that they were talking about it. They're working on it.
Thank you.
Trying to get something.
That's all I have.
Denise?
I've got nothing this week, other than it was good to see the River Street Art Festival. It was just nice to have it and start to see some normalcy come back to where they was.
Yeah, and all things considered, I think there was a pretty good crowd down there. Quite a few exhibitors, probably more than I expected. I thought it was a good event myself.
Where's your picture?
Jamie hasn't hung it up yet.
It should be here. We should see
It
it.
is here. I left it on Ethan's desk.
We can go get it before the end of the meeting.
Okay. The young lady's name that had the booth was Carmen Becker, I believe. Okay, we'll move on to the manager's report. That's you, Ethan.
Thank you. Administration and finance staff continue working on the transition to AMI. It appears as though, due to supply chain delays, we will again be estimating reading for the upcoming build usage month. We have some meters that were still out and coming in this week. We are hopeful that meter installation will be done by the end of the month. And then staff will begin working on integrating the old meter readings with new meter readings and true up the utility bills from these estimations, and then give credits for bills or bill for excess usage accordingly. Work continues on soliciting quotes for the upcoming health insurance renewal for next year for city employees, and we're looking at both fully insured and level funded plans from multiple vendors. Staff also met with Conference Tech to finalize prep work that needs to be done in anticipation of our council room and conference room upgrades. And it's anticipated that Conference Tech will begin those upgrades the first week of November. Halstead Police Department have had 59 calls for service, 22 traffic stops, and 11 criminal investigations since last meeting. Sergeant Stovall and Police Chief Orm also did presentations on safety and the K-9 unit to the Dragon Star preschool classes. And then the K-9 unit did a run through of Halstead Middle School upon request from the USD 440. Halstead Fire has had 8 calls for service, including 2 mutual aid and an accident extrication. Fire staff have continued with weekly equipment checks, calibration, and skills training. Chiefs Hoffman and Van Squik also gave a presentation for Fire Prevention Week to the Halstead Library Kids Reading Group. Halstead EMS has had 46 calls for service, with about 75% in Halstead and 25% in Sedgwick since the last meeting. EMS staff continue ordering and receipt of Spark-related public health supplies, and then providing standby for both USD 440 and USD 439 events. Newton EMS was on standby for 3 separate occasions in Halstead due to multiple callouts in a short time window these past 2 weeks as well. But I will note that Halstead staff did still provide that first response until the Newton transport crews arrived on scene. Parks and Recreation have been busy with grounds management and work in Williams Park. Volleyball has concluded and basketball signups will go out this week with practices anticipated to begin in November. New swing seats have been installed and an adaptive seat is on order and will be installed upon delivery in Scout Park. The rec director and city manager also met with Schwab Eaton regarding the Riverside Park Master Vision Plan that was commissioned by the Rec Commission. Wedgwood Golf continues to see increased play with another league concluding. Wedgwood will also host another cross-country event this Thursday. Mowing of fairways has ceased and preparation for winter has begun, which includes chemical application and watering. Golf Superintendent Everly was also selected to serve another year on the KGCSAA Board of Directors. We just congratulate him on that appointment. Public Works continues to primarily focus efforts on that AMI conversion, which continues to see replacement and repair, or sometimes both, of old water services. The water system is currently sitting at 75% completed as far as installation of the new meters, and the contractors will be back out the week of the 19th to finish meter installations. Public Works staff have also completed hydrant painting throughout the town, mowing of the levee, winterization of the pool and parks, and assisted the Kansas Learning Center for Health with installation on their outdoor bottled water and pet fountain service in the pavilion area. Staff are also working on repairs to the north rotor at the wastewater treatment plant due to a bearing failure, and the backhoe has been returned and is in service following its evaluation for an issue with the brake system. Safe Routes to School Committee had their first kickoff meeting to review the 2 submitted proposals to the RFQ we sent out. Committee members did want to meet with a vendor whose letter of interest and work history they like the best, and that has been scheduled for the coming week. And then they will hopefully be presenting a recommendation for which vendor to proceed with to the council at our next meeting. And then over the past weeks, I've also met with the Hardin County Cares Committee, Hardin County EDC Director Beth Sheldon, the Spark project vendors, and engineer Harlan Foyker on the levee repair project, in addition to some of the other activities previously mentioned. And then the other item I will note is I had forwarded you all an email of a citizen concern we had. I don't know if the council would like to also discuss that in a work session, but their main issue that they communicated was they believe we should look at how we assess those recycle fees since it's no longer mandatory. Our policy has been whether a household recycles or doesn't recycle, or if they get kicked out of the program, we don't reduce that solid waste bill at all because in theory, the amount of waste being produced is still the same, whether you're putting it in 1 cart or 2 carts. But they've asked that the city look into that more, and then to look in establishing other sorts of discount rates beyond the senior rate for people who may be on limited income. So if any of you are interested in discussing that further at the work session or even this evening, just let me know. But I will pass that on as a citizen concern.
Ethan, I only have one question.
Yeah.
It goes back to the bills and fuel. I was just strumming through it earlier today. EMS towing bill?
Yeah, so we had, that was, it already got repaired, but they responded and it basically became inoperable at the scene, and that's when it caught fire, the electrical system. And
Okay, that's that.
so that's finally, we got the
That's
towing
that.
bill.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a few months behind when the tow actually happened, but
Yeah.
that is that tow.
Okay, just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything else that.
Yeah, no.
All right, any other questions for Ethan on his manager report? Seeing none, let's move into the third quarter financials.
You have your handouts there. We reconciled the city accounts through September 30th, and what seems for the first time in several months, I'm happy to report our cash balance across budgeted funds is higher as compared to last year than at the end of the third quarter. So seeing some positivity there finally. Total revenues across all funds are about 10% from projections, and with 25% of our fiscal year remaining, and expenditures are approximately 10% below our expectations. Revenue generated from activity at Wedgewood continues to exceed our estimates, which is really helping our general fund revenues overall. And is really making up for those areas where we're seeing significant decreases, such as interest income or court revenue. I will note that the numbers do not include interfund transfers from the general fund to capital funds. And we, of course, suspended those until the end of the year, just to make sure that all those funds are in healthy shape and we're not transferring if we need to keep that in operations as opposed to capital savings. I am happy to report the current balances and trends do look positive, that we believe most, if not all, of those capital transfers should be able to be made before the year's end, if we keep on seeing revenues come in as they are. For our utility funds, the water fund is in slightly better shape compared to last year, while the gas fund continues to struggle. Still, that mild winter we had and lower demand earlier in the year just really kind of put the gas fund in a bind. Well, I shouldn't even say a bind. It's just lower than anticipated because not as much usage or sales. We have continued transfers from those utility funds to their respective reserves and capital funds. If you look at the expenses as compared to revenues for our utility funds, they continue to hold steady at acceptable levels. No real changes to report to you all this evening on the capital funds. It's what was reported out at the end of August. No major changes there, just some additions from transfers. And then the third quarter treasurer's report was included in the consent agenda. And I just will note that in the third quarter across all funds, the city had a beginning balance of 4.8 million and change on July 1. And as of September 30th, we had receipts and transfers totaling 1.6 million and change, and then expenditures and transfers that totaled 2.1 million and change, that left the city with an overall balance of 4.2 million, just shy of 4.3. Of that balance, $357,697.70 are invested for existing policies and ordinances. Total liabilities and obligations for the city were reduced from 2.51 million down to 2.45 million, including the payoff of the city's debt to the Public Wholesale Water Supply District number 17 and the state revolving loans for the original wastewater treatment plant upgrades. And I will note that the city just made another 185,000 in general obligation bond payments at the end of September. So in reality, our bonded indebtedness is even less than those numbers. It's just those payments technically don't get credited till October to those issues. So we are looking at everything. We remain on very solid footing financially as we advance through this final quarter of our fiscal year, and we'll continue to monitor funds to ensure our fiscal health as we continue to navigate these unprecedented times.
Thank you, Ethan. Anybody have any questions of that financial report? Not hearing any, I'll entertain a motion for that first executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion the city council recess into executive session for 30 minutes to discuss review of the city manager and maintenance of privacy rights pursuant to personnel matters of non-elected personnel. KSA 75-4319B1 to include governing body and city manager. Open meeting to reconvene at 8:05.
Second.
And we'll go to Jamie for the review.
Motion by Councilmember Campbell to move the Halstead City Council recess into executive session for 30 minutes to discuss the review of the city manager and maintain privacy rights pursuant to the personnel matters of non-elected personnel exception KSA 75-4319B1, and ask that in addition to the governing body, the following person join the governing body in executive session, the city manager, with the open meeting and governing body to reconvene in the city council chamber at 8:05 p.m. Seconded by Councilmember Torres.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. We'll move into executive session, and council, I'm gonna meet with you guys first, and
We are.
That's the mayor's choice.
Ethan, besides the 75-inch TVs, we need.
Go ahead, Pat.
Bose surround sound system. The subs in the corners and stuff.
Okay, we're back from our first executive session. Is there any action to be taken as a result of that? Seeing no movement from the council, I will entertain a motion for our second executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion the city council recess into executive session for 25 minutes to discuss pending contract negotiations. Pursuant to consultation with an attorney on matters that would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, exception KSA 75-4319B2. To include governing body, city manager, city attorney.
Okay, we've got a motion in a second, but before I ask Jamie to review that, Jamie, would you like to step out in front of the camera and present the mayor's choice from the craft fair?
Oh.
It's a modeling gig.
And
You can do this.
You have to do it like Vanna White.
Yeah, a little flourish.
The camera's the other way.
Well, I'm showing you government
Oh.
Okay, face the camera.
I did.
you gotta wait.
Stay right there. You'll let everyone see it.
There we go.
That's best.
Do a little stroll.
Yeah, cut it back up and forward.
I will be coming to a wall on City Hall somewhere.
Near you.
Too break
Okay,
it for that.
now Jamie, you can do your official job and review that motion for us.
Motion by Councilmember Campbell to move that the Halstead City Council recess into executive session for 25 minutes to discuss pending contract negotiations pursuant to the consultation with an attorney on matters that would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship exception KSA 75-4319B2, and ask that in addition to the governing body, the following persons join the governing body in executive session: the city manager and city attorney, with the open meeting and governing body to reconvene in the city council chamber at 8:35. Seconded by Councilmember Torres.
There is the official motion. Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Let's move back to executive session, guys.
time.
Hey, he's not in billing issue.
Numbers are not the thing we want to be dealing with.
Let's see, round up.
Oh my gosh.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We're not.
You gotta wait till 35 and come back in if that's how we made the motion.
Well, how one of us made the motion, and we read it back.
Nobody stopped me.
So we got 2 minutes before we come out of the day.
Well, you didn't miss slack. Catch you in slack.
You can be back, you just can't discuss business.
I'm powering
Just remember, get that little short tab in front of you there. In front of you,
And we are live on Facebook again, so.
I'll probably ask.
that's all right.
Too many things to think about. I have a hard time deciding whether to drive down here or walk down here.
You're saving a lot of money in gas, aren't you?
No, not really.
Part of your rehab?
Yeah.
You're not playing with myself?
I walk.
Motorcycle.
I've had motorcycle. My wife made me sell it. Next time you see her, you can tell her that's what I said.
I'll tell you that.
And he hasn't gotten over it yet.
Obviously.
You can only put up with so much negativity towards something before you finally give in.
There is hope.
It sounds a little bit.
I know there's a little bit of bitterness over there.
You rode the Harley?
Okay, Pat, go ahead. Okay, Jamie?
Mhm.
We are back from our second executive session. Is there any action to be taken as a result of? Seeing no movement from the council, that will conclude our agenda this evening, and I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Would you like to review that, Jamie?
Motion by Councilmember Clausen to adjourn the city council meeting at 8:35, seconded by Councilmember Torres.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, council.
Yeah, 8:35 is accurate.